Frank, how are you?
I'm good. What about yourself?
I'm very well, thanks. All the better for seeing you. We're 2 days away from what is another big fight. I guess you're getting excited now.
I am because, first of all, it's going to be in front of a live audience, a live crowd. So I think that's going to bring more out of these guys. Secondly, is because there's so much at stake now. Lyndon's number one. Anthony's challenging for that place. And the winner of that fight will get the winner of Callum Johnson and Joe Smith. So they got everything to go for. You know, that is it now. If you're a fighter, what do you want to do? You want to fight for the world title. This fight on Saturday is the key to that gate. So the winner comes through, he gets the shot against the winner of the other two.
And that's nailed on, is it? That's definite that will happen. That they'll.
Yeah, because the WBO will order it.
And quickly drift on to that fight. I mean, who do you think the winner of this fight will be fighting? Do you think it'll be your man?
I think that Joe Smith and Callum Johnson is going to be one of the most exciting fights out there. The styles make fights. It won't go the distance, but while it lasts, it's going to be a shootout. They will be throwing bombs at each other. And you know that Callum can whack. He's a very competitive guy, and he knows himself, with the greatest respect to him, this is his last chance saloon. So he's got to seize this moment. As the two guys have got to do on Saturday.
Yeah, so let's go back to Saturday. Didn't go the distance last time. Anthony initially was a bit aggrieved that he'd lost, but having watched it back, realised it was a much closer fight. Lyndon, by all accounts, couldn't use his right arm for a large part of the fight, but that had that metronomic jab, which proved to be the difference in the end.
Well, there was nothing in the fight, was there? One judge actually gave it to, and it was a split decision. The other two give it to Lyndon. There weren't nothing. I thought Lyndon won it by a round. But having said all that, it's all irrelevant now. They've shared the ring for 12 rounds, so they know each other. If he had a bad right hand, that can only make him better for this fight, because he's not saying it's bad now. He's had surgery on it. Anthony knows that he was looking for big bombs, and he was tailing him round rather than working. He was looking for the big shots. He knows what he did wrong. So can he change what he did last time? Fact of the matter is, Lyndon can punch as well. Anthony's got a good jab when he uses it. But this is going to be a real good fight. It didn't quite take off last time. It was a good fight to watch, but it wasn't as explosive as I expected it to be. This one will be.
So are you saying, in your gut feeling, it's not going to go the distance, this one?
I don't think so. I think they're both capable of punching, and I think it's going to be a really. You've seen what's been going on between the two camps. It's going to be very, very competitive, and they'll be looking to make it. Both of them will be looking to make sure that it's not going to be in the hands of the judges.
From Anthony's perspective, I mean, clearly, as he said, there was a lot of things in that fight. He wasn't in the right frame of mind. Maybe he should have, taken it to him a bit earlier. Do you think there's a danger that he might try too hard to get him out there?
No, look, you know what he does. I mean, he's stopped. What's he had? 20 fights and stopped. 22 fights and stopped 20. Yeah. The other two, he wobbled. Kovalev was that round in that fight. He nearly stopped him, and the last round he caught Lyndon. So he's dangerous. Well, he's dangerous because he's knocked over. And the two he lost, he hurt both of them. So he knows he's got the power, but it's not just about power, because if it was about who's the hardest punchers, you wouldn't need judges. There's got to be a bit more to the fight game than just if you're a banger. And he can box when he needs to, and we know Lyndon can box, and we know Lyndon can punch when he needs to.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, you referenced that then. It was like Fury Wilder 1. You go back to there. Yeah. You don't have to win a fight. You don't have to win the fight by using the power.
Correct, and that's what happened in that first fight. And and then you can look at the second fight. Was Tyson just did what he had to do. He just took him to school. The second fight, it was about power, the pair of them, and then it was about boxing, with Tyson doing what he had to do, and obviously totally dominating the fight at the end. But so anything can happen when guys have already met each other. Normally you see a different fight the second time, and that's what you'll see, I think, this time. What I mean by a different fight, I mean the way they go about it, I think will be different.
Now that first fight, Linda was the underdog. I mean, people were expecting Yarde to win. This one, I've spoken to a lot of people getting their predictions. It feels like a genuine 50-50. I mean, guys who are in the game, the trainers, fighters, feels like a genuine 50-50 to me.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking at it like that, and I can see where they're coming from. You know, it depends what style you favour.
Yeah. I mean, how is it for you having two fighters like? Two fighters under the, they're both your fighters, they're going up against each other. I mean, in football terms, they'd say it's a nice problem to have, but it must be a bit of a weird situation for you.
Well, it is, but it's not the unique situation. I've done it
Of course,
over the years, and what we have to do, we're professional. These guys are, you know, as Lyndon said, he's getting well paid for it, and so is Anthony, and they're professional boxers. That happens sometimes. It's not the end of the world for the loser. It won't be the end of the world for the loser in the fight on Saturday, but it'll be the world for the winner.
Yeah. I suppose you've got your own ideas on how it's going to go, but you're probably not going to tell me because I guess it would kind of be unfair.
You know, what I do expect, as I was saying, I do expect something a little bit special from both of them.
And you've got a tasty undercard as well, just to warm everyone up.
It's a cracker, isn't it? You know, Hamza Shiraz is like, you know, I've liked him from day one. I've sort of waxed lyrical about him to everybody. He's now stepping up 13 fights, so he's stepping in with a real experienced fighter in Bradley Skeet, who was with us up until a couple of years ago, and he had what would he say? I think he had sort of the bulk of his career, probably about. He's only had 3 fights elsewhere. Having said that, you know, Bradley is very smart. He's got a great boxing brain. He's obviously with Dominic Ingle up now, who's also a great trainer. So he's up for it. And he fancies it. But with him, this is his last chance to learn. This is a chance for him to get a payday. You know, to get Hamza's scalp at this stage of the game puts him into a big fight somewhere. For Hamza, he can't afford to slip up. This is a bit of an acid test for him. And can he do it? Can he do it? And that's going to be the interesting thing. I have high expectations of him, but I know this is going to be a tough fight for him.
And assuming he does do it, I mean, I would say he's probably, you know, hovering around world level for a while now.
He's only 13 fighs.
That's true.
He's still got a long way, but he looks world class, doesn't he? He's got something about him. You know, the way he fights. I mean, he's got a really good boxing brain. He's a tall, rangy guy for his weight. And what I like about it, you know, you look how he fights. He's got such a long reach, but he sits in his arms, so he's very difficult to hit. Because he's there, I mean, I've got little arms, but you know, he takes him right down to sort of lower parts of his body, and he's, you know, for me, I really do think he's one of our special young talents coming through.
Okay, but win this fight, win a couple more. Surely it's not going to be long before he's knocking on the door.
I mean, he's got to win this. It's no foregone conclusion, but he comes through this fight, then we step him up, and then by the end of next year, he should be up to at least 17, 18 fights. If he does what we hope he can do, then we look at an eliminator at least for a world title.
Okay, and I mentioned Tyson earlier on. His new role as trainer these days. He seems to be warming into it quite nicely.
Yeah, well, look, you know, if anybody can train a fighter, it's him. I mean, he's training constantly. He's got a very good boxing brain, Tyson. We all know that, and he's very smart. So. You know, I don't think I want to say he's a bad person to have training here, that's for sure. And obviously it's family, so he'll be paying even more particular attention to Tommy.
And that fight, I mean, when we were out in the States a few weeks ago, I spoke to a few respected guys in the media, and they were saying that they thought Jake Paul could win.
Well, a lot of people think that, otherwise they wouldn't have made the fight. Jake Paul thinks that. Certainly based off of when we did the last show, I think Tommy could have looked much better than he was. I know Tommy's a much better fighter than that. But Jake Paul, for me, in that fight, I mean, he didn't look the end of the world, did he? So now you've got these two guys, and it's like a unique situation. Was it between them? They got 30 million Instagram followers, and that's why it's happening.
But why would Jake Paul risk a fight like this? I mean, the first few fights he's had, okay, you know, they've been against, none of them against proper boxers, if you like. Why would he risk all this, put his reputation, if you like, on the line?
Look, one thing about him, I mean, you know, he's a pretty confident guy, isn't he? So he must fancy the job, and maybe he looks at that, like Tommy's last fight, and felt, you know, this fight's an attraction because of the name Fury, because of Tommy also with the following he's got from his Love Island and so forth, and he feels he's got to beat him. But you know what, if in my opinion, Tommy can't beat him, then you know, where are we with this anyway? Tommy, you know, this is a big moment for Tommy. He's got to come through this.
And Tyson, you speak to Tyson, you speak to the Furies. I mean, they're you know, there's no question of mine, and it's just like, you know, if Tyson was saying he doesn't even need to have to train to beat this bloke. You know, the classic Tyson with one leg, an arm behind his back, etc., etc.
You know, they're a fighting family, aren't they? That's what they've always been, and that's where he's at. But he does need to train. Stand on me.
But you think
for any fight. Yeah.
But you think, like, basically it's only going to go one way.
The fight. Look, he's getting handsomely paid for the fight, and I mean, you know, the money he's getting paid is unbelievable for an 8-round fight in his 8th fight. You know, it's a total no-brainer, and for me, it's a winnable fight.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll come just before we go. We'll go on to Tyson. I mean, Tyson said to me, he's enjoying the training because it's keeping him active. It's like, I guess you have a massive high after winning that trilogy fight, and then where do you go from there? But this is getting him up in the morning, getting him in the gym with Tommy. What about Tyson himself? When can we see him out again?
He'll be out. I think, in March, whatever happens. And as far as Tyson's concerned, look, we're all trying to make the unification. Everybody's working hard on that, and hopefully we can make that happen. If we can't, then he'll defend his title in the UK in March. It's going to be one or the other. But it feels there's a will between everybody to make this unification happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's all dependent on Joshua taking step-aside money.
Well, you know, he gave an interview, was it last week, and he said it was about legacy. It was about something else, and he's also a businessman. So he's a businessman. So businessman, it's all about money.
And also, realistically, Tyson beats Usyk, which I think he would do, and he takes
4 belts.
Then there's 4 belts, which obviously makes it a much more appealing fight to AJ.
It means he hasn't got to take the risk with Usyk, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe lose. And I would fancy Usyk would be the favourite going into that, whereas he can go straight in.
And if it doesn't happen, you mentioned the fights, whatever happens is going to be in the UK. Joe Joyce, another name went on. We saw Joe.
There's a choice there for Tyson to make, and we'll make that choice. But I think everything's going to become quite apparent in the next sort of 7 to 10 days. Something's got to be decided this side of Christmas, because if he wants to fight in March, this is Tyson, who wants to fight in March, then we've got to get everything in place so he can do that. It's not something we can do at 4 weeks' notice.
Okay. Well, just from this last 10 minutes, one thing is apparent. You've got quite a few decent fighters in your stable at the moment.
We've got the best stable, without a doubt, in Europe. We've got the best stable of fighters in Europe. We've got the best young stable of anywhere. And we've got the best and the heavyweights. Tyson, Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce is the best heavyweight stable in the world. No doubt about that.
And your light heavies aren't looking too shabby either.
None of them are. Yeah, but we've worked hard at this. We've worked hard with BT building this over the years. I mean, it's not just happened overnight. All these youngsters are coming through, and that's what we're all about. And that's what it is for us. It's about building blocks, and now we're seeing the fruits of our labours. And next year will be even better.